Well, they're the weird ones, and if you've ever seen her with the laugh and everything else, that's a weird deal going on there. They're the weird ones. Nobody's ever called me weird. I'm a lot of things, but weird I'm not, and I'm upfront, and he's not either, I will tell you. JD is not at all. They are.
That was Donald Trump whining, crying, trying to hide how mad he is that Democrats have been calling him weird over the past week. Now, Democrats finally have Republicans on their back heel. We have them playing defense while we are playing on the offensive for the first time in a while. And Donald Trump cannot handle being called a single name. And keep in mind, his claim to fame in American politics was coming up with nicknames for people. Whether they were Republicans, whether they were Democrats, he came up with the nastiest nicknames that he could think of, like he was a kindergartner, and that is how he launched his campaign back in 2015, 2016. So the irony of him not being able to handle being called one single name is funny. He also tried to run defense for JD Vance during that clip by saying JD Vance isn't weird, they're weird, but JD Vance is incredibly weird, and he proves it in this clip where he tries to claim he is just a normal guy. I also want to point out that the projection you hear in this clip from Donald Trump is that of a fifth grader. He does this all the time where he'll say, I'm not a threat to democracy, they're a threat to democracy, or I'm not weird, they're weird. It sounds like a third grader who just got called an insult on a playground. Listen to the projection one more time, how he says, I'm not weird, they're weird.
Well, they're the weird ones, and if you've ever seen her with the laugh and everything else, that's a weird deal going on there. They're the weird ones. Nobody's ever called me weird.
Nobody's ever called him weird. This is like the school bully just getting punched for the first time. I didn't know I could get punched like that, says Donald Trump. This is JD Vance in an interview with just some frat bros, and he's acting weird.
I have a question about just obviously, running and being in politics. Do you take what sometimes the media says about you personally? Like, I don't know if you saw that. There was like a whole clip of like people calling you weird. Did you see that? It was like a clip of like.
I certainly know the Kamala campaign wants to call me weird. But
yeah, but I'm wondering why that word, and because like it was on like it was like clipped on like 1,000 different media outlets. Like they were all using the same word.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's like something they focus grouped and decided to push on us. I mean, like I'm a pretty normal guy. I've got a wife and kids, and I like to hang out and watch football. And
that is exactly what someone who is not normal would say. He's like, I have a wife, and I do human things. I communicate with humans, and I harvest flesh. Here's a clip of Donald Trump insisting that VP Harris is just not a smart person, even though Donald Trump is the one who thinks F-35 fighter jets are actually invisible. Donald Trump is the one who said he didn't know what NATO was until he was the president. Donald Trump is the one who doesn't understand the human language, pronouns, and he doesn't understand the basics of anything when it comes to the economy, foreign policy, military, nothing. Donald Trump has repeatedly demonstrated that, and in this clip, he sounds old and deranged. Leave a like if you agree, and take a look.
Look, she is not a smart person. She's not a smart person. If you look back 5 weeks ago, before this whole thing happened, where, it's a coup of Joe Biden, and all of a sudden the media says, well, we're stuck with her, so now we're going to make her smart. And these are people that are very pro-China. These are people that are pro-other countries. These are people that look at a world view and they think the United States is going to be a dumping ground for the rest of the world. These are people that are not good for our country. But China wants to have her so badly. They wanted Joe Biden too. They wanted anybody but me. I've taken hundreds of billions of dollars away from China. I've taken businesses away from China. China is not doing well right now because of me. Biden cannot get rid of the taxes, the tariffs that I put on China. Can't. You know why?
One of the first things that Biden passed when he got into office was the Made in America Act. Also, the Chips and Science Act, which makes America directly more competitive with China because we are now manufacturing microprocessors at a higher rate and more competitive with them. This is a clip of Donald Trump making excuses for why he won't debate VP Harris. Take a look.
They say, Trump's, not doing the debate. That's the same thing they'll say now. I mean, right now I say, why should I do a debate? I'm leading in the polls. And everybody knows her. Everybody knows me. She wants that.
Everybody does not know VP Harris, number one. Number two, it sounds like Donald Trump knows that he has more to lose than more to gain with a debate. Everybody knows him. He is a known quantity. But if he goes on stage with VP Harris, he is essentially showing the entire world in one swoop that he is unfit to be president and that VP Harris is actually pretty badass. Meanwhile, he and his weirdo running mate say stuff like this.
Should a woman be forced to carry a child to term after she has been the victim of incest or rape? Look, my view on this has been very clear, and I think the question betrays a certain presumption that's wrong. It's not whether a woman should be forced to bring a child to term, it's whether a child should be allowed to live, even though the circumstances of that child's birth are somehow inconvenient or a problem to the society.
Did you hear what he said at the end there? He said even if the circumstances of that child's birth are inconvenient, and by circumstances being inconvenient, he means rape or incest. He's essentially saying that rape or incest can be simply inconvenient circumstances and not something that would radically change your life and traumatize you. Listen again.
Circumstances of that child's birth are somehow inconvenient or a problem to the society.
If the circumstances are somehow inconvenient or a problem, that is wild to me. And JD Vance has made himself incredibly clear, and I think that we are fair in saying that that is weird. This article reads, Trump insists that he and his weird VP pick JD Vance are, quote, not weird. Dems' weird attacks are getting under Trump's skin. Quote, of course he's upset, a source told Rolling Stone. As Democrats continue their rhetorical strategy of trash-talking Donald Trump, his running mate JD Vance, and other weird and creepy conservative policymakers attempting to thrust the country into the dark ages, the former president has become increasingly furious at the messaging overtaking media outlets and internet memes. During a Thursday interview with conservative radio host Clay Travis, Trump attempted to reverse the criticism and said that Democrats were, quote, the weird ones. He insisted, nobody's ever called me weird. I'm a lot of things, but weird I'm not, and I'm upfront, and he's not either. I will tell you, JD Vance is not at all. They are. Again, he's like a petulant little child throwing insults back. Quote, we're not weird people, Trump added. We're actually just the opposite. I mean, he literally, you could tell how mad it's making him, and you can tell that he wants to cry so badly, but he is just holding back all of his anger and just whining instead. Notably, in 2015, Senator Mark Rubio observed, quote, when Donald comes across a poll he doesn't like, he gets weird, and he does these sorts of strange things, and that's fine. That's the sort of campaign he wants to run, and he's entitled to it. Here we are, 9 years later, and Donald Trump is still running a petulant, whiny campaign. Then, in 2017, following Trump's sinister inauguration speech, 43rd U.S. President George W. Bush offered a brief assessment, quote, that was some weird If one of the strategic intentions driving the Democratic Party-wide anti-weird messaging campaign was to crawl under Trump's skin, in that sense, the effort has been a success. And I think that was one of the goals. We will see how the public thinks about the weird rhetoric in a few weeks as the polling comes in, but one of the goals was to get under Donald Trump's skin, and it has absolutely been a success. He is so predictable that we knew if we just called him and his followers nicknames, he would melt down in front of us, and this is coming at a critical moment when VP Harris is gaining in the polls, when she's fundraising hundreds of millions of dollars, when she's blowing up on social media, and when Donald Trump is getting ridiculed for his weirdo VP pick, getting ridiculed for his weirdo speeches and all of his cognitive lapses. Also, his terrible performance at the Black Journalist Convention the other day. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, comment a blue heart, hit that subscribe button. I love having you guys with me here, building this beautiful community as we head into a high-stakes election. We can panic together, cheer together, we can laugh together and cry together as things happen. So just make sure you're subscribed, make sure you're a part of it, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.